we've talked a lot about this in between media this season. There's going to be curveballs coming your way.
Hate's a strong word. I dislike Kirk Cousins more than probably any other quarterback. Because
I get a little bit of that rookie-itis, you know?
I would have said, I would love some of what you're smoking.
Even though I strayed, I'm still stuck between an interpretation, what it all means. Can I make a difference for something different? My mind in prison, then I saw the vision. Played the field, it's no competition. Found success through the repetition. If it's impossible, stick to the mission. I'm just cruising through on my way to get it. I found myself somewhere in between. Yeah, I found myself somewhere in between. Found myself somewhere in between. Yeah, I found myself somewhere in between. The In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
So one thing that really sets us apart here is we're not afraid to talk about other things that maybe aren't super fantasy related.
Do what you can to become a better person, to become a better human.
All right, the time has come. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, your destination for both some feel-good lifestyle advice, and we're going to tuck a little bit of fantasy football advice in there for you as well. I'm your normal host, Seth Woolcock, joined by my normal two brochachos, Nate Polvo and Scott Reinier. Also, if you're noticing, we have a little more handsome in the room today. We have Jay and Eagles Dan from the pod with Upside over there at Going for Two. Jay, Dan, Nate, Scott, how we doing today, gentlemen?
Doing great. Appreciate you having us on.
Wonderful.
I'm good. It cooled off up here in Seattle. I'm good.
Oh, good. You're not melting anymore?
No.
Thank God, man.
I almost put pants on today.
Who wants to do that?
Almost.
Guys, I'm glad to hear everyone's doing well. It's also a little toasty here over in PA. I got the shades on to keep me cool today. I know we're going to have some heated discussion about the Scott Fish Bowl tonight. Everyone who's tuning in tonight, I'll do my best to kind of explain things a little bit here. If you have been living under the rock and you aren't familiar with Scott Fish Bowl, my first set of advice is going to be come out from under that rock. Welcome to the
Rock,
show.
Dwayne Johnson or A-Rock?
I had the same thought, Jay.
So Scott Fish Bowl, guys, it's the premier pro-am fantasy football league out there. It's known as the largest fantasy football league as well. All commissioned by yours truly, Scott Fish. Scott, if you don't know Scott, again, come back out from that rock. But Scott is actually one of the founders of Devy Fantasy Football Content. And he's been just a huge part of this industry. We were lucky enough to have him featured on a show a couple weeks ago. One of the most charitable guys out there. Nate, you know as well as I do that while we love playing in Scott Fish Bowl, there's a lot of great networking opportunities, a lot of fun just playing in it. There's something a little bit bigger that we're playing for as well.
Well, yeah, we've got Fantasy Cares, which obviously is a charitable organization that we're all donating money to. Everything that you're buying, if you're buying shirts from Viridian or RotoWare, $13 from every purchase goes to Fantasy Cares. The Podathon is earning thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars for Fantasy Cares. You're doing good. And you don't have to be a part of Scott Fish Bowl to donate to Fantasy Cares. Scott Fish Bowl is just a way for him to get the word out about all the charitable work that they're doing.
Absolutely. Dan and Jay, this is you guys' first time on the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast. So would you guys mind introducing yourselves a little bit? Tell us a little bit about your background, what you're up to on a normal basis, and what is Pod with Upside as well.
Dan, I'll defer to you first, my friend.
You better. All right. So hi, my name is Dan, the real star of Podcast with Upside.
The real star is Patty. But
it is Patty's the mascot. There's a difference. But no, basically Pod with Upside is basically just Jay and I show. It was we started doing War Room Live last year at the beginning of the season for Going for Two, and it just kind of evolved into our own little show over there. So we have fun, we try to make it fun, bring on some guests and everything. And then for the writing side, I write for, as well as Jay, write for Roto Underworld. I actually have an article that just came out Monday David Montgomery. So yeah, that's what I'm doing currently.
Yeah, Dan basically said it all, and I'll drop a little teaser as well. Keep an eye out. There's I've been a part of the team over at Front Yard Fantasy for a few months now. Dan just recently joined, so we may or may not be doing a show under the FYF umbrella very soon. So
Ooh,
Awesome.
spicy.
Some Big J journalism here on the
So,
In-Between
there you go.
Fantasy Football podcast. Some Big J journalism, boys. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's actually crazy because the first time I ever heard of Jay, I ever interacted with him, he was on a Scott Fishbowl panel last year with Tommy Moe over at 2-on-1 FFB. And, I really drew to Jay. I thought Jay was a pretty nice guy, but also you gave me great advice for my first Scott Fishbowl. And I really thank you for that, man. And
well, thank you. That means a lot.
It's kind of full circle to have you back here. And I'm happy to have you, man.
I really appreciate that. I'm used to being around Dan not saying nice things about me. So for once to have somebody actually give me a compliment, really. But we've gotten pretty close over these past few months, all you guys. So Seth, I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. As always, we have our guy Third and Short in the background holding it down as our producer. And I think there's no other better place to start, guys, than weekly advice.
Weekly advice.
All right, so this is the part of the show. Things are going to get interesting. I'm going to take off my normal hosting hat. I'm going to pass that down below to my guys Scott and Nate. Nate and Scott, this is your guys' first Scott Fishbowl, so I want you to really soak up everything you can, ask us anything you want. Of course, contribute to the conversation as well because you guys are great fantasy football analysts. But Jay and Dan, they've been around a lot longer than we have. I was lucky enough to play my first Scott Fishbowl last year. So let's see how it shakes out. Nate, Scott, takes the reins, boys.
You want to start, Nate?
Well, you know what? I'm actually going to defer to you since you wrote the majority of the questions because I've been too damn busy.
Okay. Well,
but these are all questions I'm curious about too. But yeah, take it away.
This was what I'm most curious about as I've been paying attention to mock drafts, lots of mock drafts, and just the different strategies with this scoring format. So I'm sitting at the 107, and I think it's a slam dunk if one of the top level QBs is there that I'm taking a top level QB. But I've been seeing a lot of Kelsey and Waller going early, and I get it. It's tight end premium, but there's also a lot of negative consequences for quarterbacks. So where do you balance that tight end premium scoring with the additional points available to a tight end versus securing a quarterback who doesn't throw a lot of picks, who doesn't get sacked a lot, who has a high completion percentage? Where does that balance go? Because to me, it seems like the quarterback is still the priority in this super flex format, but it's my first year. What say you?
Dan, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll take this one first. All right. So I think a lot of it has to do with where you're drafting, obviously, because every draft spot is going to have its own unique strategy. In your case, in the 107, I would definitely look at picking up that tight end first, because how it would work out in my mind is, say Kelsey doesn't go. At that point, at 107, you're picking QB7 or TE1. So I think with the bonuses that TEs are getting, I think that it would behoove you to take Kelsey there at that spot, and then maybe get a quarterback in the second and third round.
I am not going to help whatsoever because I'm going to say the exact opposite of Dan, which is pretty normal for us. I even in tight end premium, I don't like to take tight end early. And like you said, Scott, you've been doing mock drafts, which this is one thing that Dan and I both agree on. We both been in Scott Fishbowl a few years. The mock drafts that you're doing, even more so the normal mock drafts, mean absolutely nothing for Scott Fishbowl because it's such a crazy format and people just want to get weird. You're going to have that person that maybe somebody takes a kicker in the first round. Maybe somebody reaches for, I don't
Matt
know.
Barkley.
Matt
Right.
Barkley,
Yeah. Matt Barkley.
Yeah.
Or, people are rightfully so. You're playing in a tournament of 2,000 people. You're going to want to do something to differentiate yourself. People aren't afraid to reach and get a little crazy. Some people do it for fun. They'll put their first round pick up for, auction for a charity, stuff like that. I saw some people took Matt Barkley last year. And if they donate $100 or something like that. So with that being said, the mock drafts mean even less. It's still worth it to do them. Excuse me. Because you're able to get sort of a feel for the majority of where guys are going and what you can try different roster constructions and things like that and see what your team looks like. But with last year, if you didn't have a top end QB, there were guys getting negative points every week, with the pick sixes being so many negative points, with the completions. It's very important to have a quarterback who's got a high completion percentage. So I think getting one of those elite quarterbacks, it should be a priority for everybody that's able.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there, guys. I'm very QB heavy, very tight end heavy when it comes to Scott Fishbowl. I was one of those guys who for some reason punted QB a little bit last year, but I was able to pick up Tom Brady in the 4th round, Joe Burrow 2 rounds later, ended up grabbing like Justin Herbert in the 17th. But that was definitely that's an outlier type of draft. I don't think you're going to hit on guys that late. Scott, the 107 is definitely an interesting place, though. I'm sure we're going to break this down a little bit more once we kind of really lay out the scoring settings for some of the newer audience here.
So I guess that leaves me up. It's kind of interesting that both of the people who are asking you guys the questions, we both have the 7th pick. We're smart.
Makes it easy.
Now with that 3rd round reversal, man, it doesn't screw you up as much.
In our IBT media group chat at one point a while back, our own Seth, right up there, he suggested that, and I didn't want to spend a lot of time thinking about it, so I just said, okay, 107.
I said the 7, and then the next day I realized I didn't want the 7. I wanted the 6. So I did I did change my mind, but 7 was my initial.
I remember, and you explained why, and I was like, that makes sense. Let's do it.
Yep.
So, guys, my question. I want to know how the 3rd round reversal changes things for you, and I want to know how that affects. Okay, let's first talk about the 3rd round reversal. How do you feel about that? I hate it personally. I despise it in any draft, but I want to know, how do you guys feel about it coming into this draft, specifically with this crazy scoring?
I really like it because I requested a 12 spot for the draft and I got the 12 spot. So I'm looking forward to getting that 301 versus, the 312. I still don't know how I feel about 3rd round reversal as a whole. I've done it a few times before, and supposedly it balances things out, but I feel like it gives an advantage to the later round. For the 7, probably starting about the 7. So I think you guys are in a good spot. The 7 to 12 range, because the types of players that are available in the 3rd and 4th round are guys that make or break teams. For the most part, 1st and 2nd rounders. Yeah, you can lose your league, but you can't really necessarily win your league with your picks in the 1st and 2nd round. Those are all going to be studs, but really the tiers start to drop off when it comes to the 3rd and 4th. So getting first choice, especially in a league like this, I think is going to make a big difference. And I think you're going to see a lot of teams that are in that 7 to 12 pick range do well in the Scott Fishbowl this year.
Dan, I remember actually, talking in a group chat with you early on, and I was like, I don't know how to approach this 3rd round reversal. It was I've never been in a 3rd round reversal draft before this. And Dan, what was your feedback to me right then when I asked that?
Basically, if you're something that you're not used to, just be flexible with it. Just take it as it comes. There's going to be, like Jay said before, there's going to be people that go nuts and do absolutely crazy stuff. Just 3rd round reversal is like this. It's the big deal of Scott Fish. It's not as complicated and it's not as scary as it may seem. It's just people just have to take a deep breath and calm down about it, and they'll do fine. It's just everyone's up in arms and freaking out because it's changing everyone's draft strategies. But honestly, the people in front of you are going to determine what players you're taking. So as long as you go in knowing that the plan you have is going to get blown up probably in the first 3 picks. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Very true.
And Dan and Jay, is this both of your guys' third Scott Fish Bowl? Am I right on that?
Yes, it's my third.
This is my fourth, actually.
Okay.
Oh, a fancy
Ooh,
name.
Jay.
I was asked a question. I just answered the question. Yeah, Scott Fish Bowl 8 was my first one.
Okay, great. And guys, kind of just like going down here, like let's just start with QBs and kind of go down the list. Nate and Scott, feel free to weigh in on this as well, or ask any follow-up questions. Starting with quarterbacks, like what's the biggest difference, do you guys think, between a super flex league and like a normal super flex league and Scott Fish Bowl scoring?
Definitely the incompletions.
Mm-hmm.
The incompletions are and the heavy interception penalty is definitely the biggest difference, because everyone, if you're playing in a regular superflex league, usually the low completion guides, they can mitigate that somewhat, maybe with like rushing or
Garbage time.
or garbage time. And in this case, that doesn't exactly work, because even if they put up a score or two in garbage time, if they throw 3 interceptions, that's negative 18 points right there in this type of scoring. So you just have to make sure that, if you're taking one of those like garbage time QBs, probably err maybe to one of those like Konami guys, like maybe like a Jalen Hurts or something, just in case if they don't have a high completion percentage.
What a surprise. Dan recommends Jalen Hurts. Sure.
Anyway, yeah, just to take, so that you have that rushing floor to mitigate some, maybe that low completion percentage.
Okay.
So
Jay,
not Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins actually is top 10 in completion.
Yeah,
he is. He's actually a really good option.
Yeah,
he's
really good, Nate.
I know.
You just made our point for us, Nate. And actually, I agree with
you.
Dan completely. I think the most important thing is looking for a guy with a high completion percentage. A guy
as a
Derek Carr.
first year player, when I first looked at the rules, that's what smacked me in the face. That the negative points for completion is the first thing I saw.
Yeah, 100%. That's the biggest thing you get in. That's the thing. Scott Fish does a really good job of tweaking it every year. This is only my 4th year. It's year 11 now. Trying to, and he said many times that his whole goal with doing that is to try to make it where every position is pretty close to about the same in value. Obviously, that's going to change. But, there's so many different ways you can build a team in Scott Fish Bowl and still be successful. There's teams that fade quarterback and go far. There's teams that go quarterback early and go far. So there's so many different ways you can go about it. It's just making sure what categories for each position change values. Lamar Jackson has in a standard league that doesn't have completion percentage. He's one of the elite quarterbacks. Yeah, he still is, but that rushing upside is taken down a notch because of his low completion percentage.
He's 24th in completion percentage last year, by the way, 24th.
Right. Yeah,
so that's going to hurt a lot.
Yeah, and guys, I felt like on a lot of teams last year, I was seeing people who had like Carson Wentz, and keep in mind sacks are also minus a point too in this. So like Carson Wentz, who was struggling with completion percentage, he was struggling not getting sacked, and just all over the place really. Like he was getting negative points a lot of the weeks. Like he was unstartable at times. Daniel Jones, your guy Jay, he was unstartable as well. And the one other thing I think people don't factor in as much as maybe we should as well is the weather. Baker Mayfield last year, he had a lot of negative point games, and it wasn't always because of just seriously bad play, but we saw those typhoons up in Cleveland off Lake Erie a couple times last year impact the game, and Baker Mayfield was, just had such a bad completion percentage because they couldn't throw it in that wind and rain. So I definitely think dome quarterbacks or the Southern quarterbacks get a little bit of a bump at least.
Yep. And one thing too, even though this is a super flex, and normally in super flex, you're always throwing your quarterback in the second spot. At Scott Fish Bowl, I saw a lot of people do it last year, and I think there's going to be more that do it this year. Don't be afraid to sit your second quarterback if you don't have that elite option, if you've just got a fringe guy, because you can be hurt really badly by somebody who doesn't have a good game, takes a lot of sacks. One pick six, I think, is like negative 6 points or something like that.
Yep.
So, I mean, you get a pick six, sacks a couple times, and don't get a touchdown, and you're way in the negative. So don't be afraid to not start a second quarterback if you don't have an elite guy or if they're on a bye.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting, those decisions, because, in a typical super flex, oftentimes it's a no-brainer. A quarterback, even a quarterback two, is going to score in all likelihood more than your, flex running back or wide receiver. But in this scoring format, those other skill positions don't really have that potential to sink you with negative points.
Right.
So it's really a feast or famine thing. And I like the point about weather, because a lot of times weather gets brought up with the passing game and with kicking game. And a lot of people are like, oh, don't worry about it unless it's above a certain miles per hour. But just grimy, wet, sleety weather, like, not necessarily that they can't throw with the same velocity, but just it leads to more incompletions.
Right.
So that's going to be something to, I like
It's
that.
going to be a lot harder.
I like all this different strategy. It's fun.
Yeah.
It is.
It's so fun.
Nate, as a first-time player, like what are your questions that you have about running backs and wide receivers specifically? Like what's your take on them now, and like what do you want to hear from Dan, Jay, and I that we can lend to you and other newer players in Scott Fishbowl?
So I want to know, okay, so once you get above like that top tier, how are you valuing some of these guys? Let's say okay, J.K. Dobbins, for instance. Where are you sitting on him in this format? I'm curious. Is he a guy where if he's around in like the 10th, 11th, 12th round, he's someone you're going to grab like in a normal draft? Or is he a guy you're waiting on? Is he a guy you're reaching on earlier?
You're talking about Gus Edwards, you mean, buddy?
No, I said J.K. Dobbins.
Oh, okay. Okay. You said 9th or 10th round. That's why I was surprised. But
well, that's what I'm asking, because I'm low on Dobbins because I don't think the production is going to be there. And I'm curious to hear, like, in this format, do you guys think that J.K. Dobbins is – because I feel like Gus Edwards is probably going to be more productive in Baltimore. And I know that sounds crazy, but that's been my kind of gut. So, like, a guy like J.K. Dobbins, where do you sit on him? Because he's definitely not a first-tier running back.
I like J.K. Dobbins, but I think in this format, I think his value is diminished a little bit because of, like I was saying, it's really important to know the scoring in Scott Fishbowl.
Right.
I don't see him being in there to get the first downs. And that's a score, that's scoring for running back for that's rushing first downs. So I think that Gus Edwards' value is bumped up in this format because of that. I think he's a rock solid RB2. He's got, in your normal format, I think he's more of a high end RB2 with RB1 potential. In Scott Fishbowl, I think he's more of a, boom bust RB2 because, if it's that slow game where they're not, obviously Baltimore's always going to rush the ball, but if grind, he's not going to be the guy that's going to grind it out. That's going to be Gus Edwards.
That makes sense. I'm much lower on J.K. Dobbins than the rest of the world. So,
I mean, I like J.K. Dobbins. I like the talent. I wish it's just another one of those running backs where it's like, dude, just give him 25 carries a game and see what happens. But in this format, at least what I've been seeing with kind of the ADPs that have been materializing, the mock drafts, where he's going, I'm not going to be pulling the trigger on him where he's going. I'm likely going to be getting either a different running back there or a wide receiver. That's what I've been seeing. I would rather take, the wide receivers, they're the first downs they accumulate are a little bit more common. And so I really like him though. In Dynasty, I'd love to have Dobbins on my team, but in this format, I'm probably not going to end up with him unless he falls. I he's fallen to the 10th round, but unless he falls.
So to be fair, I do love Dobbins' talent. I really do. I love Dobbins' talent. I think he should be the RB1 in Baltimore. I just don't think he will be.
Dan, right now, like, where are you? Because are you a guy who is going to load up on RB early, or are you more planning to kind of get some late round guys? Or and same question with receiver as well. Are you trying to punt receiver? Like, that's kind of my big thing is I'm a big punt receiver guy in Scott Fishbowl. I think that's most people as well.
I'm the plan right now is to maybe take a running back early. I think that there's a couple of elite options where in like the first couple rounds, and then it kind of drops off pretty quick after that. And to Jay's point, he's saying, and this is like the key thing, pay attention to the scoring. A lot of these like big name guys that like the Dobbins or whatever are good for regular fantasy, but in this scoring system, they're not. I think I was actually on not to plug or anything, but on the FYF show today, we actually had a stat where and rushing first downs, which are a key point in this scoring system. Gus Edwards blew J.K. Dobbins away last year in rushing first downs.
Yep.
So it's stuff like that you have to pay attention to and do your research on to see like where guys actually are in terms of on-field production versus where you perceive them to be in fantasy.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there, Dan. A little bit of a spoiler. Later in the show, we're going to talk about sleepers in Scott Fishbowl. My sleeper was actually, we've talked about him enough, so I'll just reveal that it was Gus Edwards. And it was exactly because of what Dan said. He had over 45 rushing first downs last season. He was in the top 17 in rushing first downs, Gus Edwards, that is. So I think he's like one of those guys you can target late. I personally, last year I punted wide receiver. We can go in a little more in depth, like what our strategy was last year, how that paid off for us, pros and cons of that. Jay, like where do you think you're trying to take a receiver in most leagues? Because I feel like for me right now, I'm ending up with like Cooper Kupp with my wide receiver one, a Jamar Chase. I'm actually okay with that.
Yeah, I think it all depends on the running backs that are available to you. And just like in any league, I think the most important thing is to be flexible. You know, there's been so much drama on Twitter. What a surprise. But people arguing, zero RB, hero RB, modified RB, robust RB. Like just do. I'm the type, I do like to go running back early and often, but I'm also not going to reach if there's not a good running back there.
Yeah.
So the main thing is to read the board. Whatever comes to you, be able to be flexible, like Nate was saying earlier, I believe. I do like running back early. With that being said, I wouldn't mind having a stud. I wound up who at the time last year, I had a pretty good team last year. I went running back early. I think my first 4 picks were running back, quarterback, running back, quarterback. And I wound up with my first wide receiver, Stephon Diggs, who at the time was not considered a wide receiver one.
Yeah.
And I was able to stack him with Josh Allen, which worked out pretty good. I had a pretty solid team last year. So I do like to try to get the, wide receiver one, running back one, quarterback one to try to get a little bit of balance. But the way that the scoring is set up in Scott Fishbowl more than any other league, don't be afraid to go super running back heavy if that's what falls to you, or super wide receiver heavy. Yeah. There is a lot of depth at the wide receiver position. I think you can wait on that a little more than running back. But that being said, if everybody loads up on running backs and you can wind up with a A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill, I mean, you'd be crazy not to do that.
Awesome.
Right.
Awesome.
Exactly. Real quick to what Jay's point is, if everyone punts wide receiver, and obviously wide receiver is going to be a value then. So then just, you take the Tyreek Hills or the AJ Browns or whatever. Right. And as far as the Dobbins Edwards point, if you want to take Edwards, he's probably going like 5 to 6 rounds after Dobbins. So you can use that Dobbins slot for a receiver that'll get you more points. And the points will be comparable to Dobbins and Edwards. So it's stuff like that in roster construction that you want to like pay attention to ADP as well, because that's going to be important, going in while still remaining flexible, as Jay said.
Yeah, it seems to me even more so than regular drafts. Like you really have to detach yourself from kind of the name recognition associated with players, because I put out that fancy little thread on first down stuff, and yeah, in first downs per touch, Gus Edwards led the league, 29% of his touches. However, J.K. Dobbins was 6th, 25%. So we didn't necessarily destroy him, but they each had about 150 touches. One's going 5 rounds later than the other one. So it seems like that there's a lot of value that could be found. I mean, that's not too dissimilar from most drafts. I mean, Gus Edwards has been talked about as a good late round, effective, valuable running back all offseason. But I think especially in this format. I have a quick question. So with the 107, in one of the mocks I did, a lot of people went running back in the first round. And so there were some really good quarterbacks still available at the turn in the second. Is that, I mean, super flex, like if you can get a couple of stud quarterbacks, that seems like the way to go, but is that advisable?
I'm not opposed to it personally, Scott. I think like if you can get yourself at the 107, if a Lamar Jackson were to slide there, and then if somehow like Russell Wilson were to come back to you, I've seen Russell Wilson fall deep into the second round, some mocks. So I would love that stack personally. My girlfriend Katie, we're actually doing a mock draft right now, and she got Lamar. I think she was maybe at the 108, but she grabbed Lamar and then was faced with that decision. Ultimately went running back but we had some debate whether or not she should do that. But I think it's like I still want like a top 12 to 14 running back. I think if like you're afraid that one of them aren't going to get back, I would take the running back. But if you think like you're still going to get a guy like Cam Akers or something, maybe in the 3rd round, I would wait.
Yeah, because I mean, this specific mock I was in, Kyler fell to 107, and then Herbert was sitting there in the 2nd.
Wow.
So I was just
my God.
I take that all day, every day.
That's not even close.
Just like what you were saying, like these mocks, some of the running backs that went in the 1st round before Kyler, like that's not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And you'll see too that they do where you can see everybody's draft pick. I think it's on Josh ADHD does a little thing on what's his website. I can't think of it. I'm drawing a blank right now. But he does something the past couple of years where there's a Scott Fishbowl toolbar where you can see where the earliest the guy has gone, the latest the guy has gone, and cool. The range is just unbelievable. Like you'll see even more so. You can't, we could say it till we're blue in the face, but until you experience it, be like, wow, I took this guy in the 2nd round and he just went in the 5th round in this draft. Did I do something wrong? But especially being super flex and as important it is to get 2 guys with good completion percentage, I am not opposed to going quarterback whatsoever.
Well, and that's why I really like the 107 and that general area is because you have the opportunity to potentially get 2 really good quarterbacks, and then the 3rd round reversal potentially gets you a better RB1 or wide receiver one than you would have ever got without it.
That's why I wanted the 12 spot with the 3rd round reversal, because if Kyler Murray and who was it? Kyler Murray and Justin Herbert are there, like. I would gladly at 12 and 201 take those guys, and then I'd still have a shot at a good running back with a 301. So, it just depends. It depends how the draft falls, but that's why I wanted the back end of the draft for the 3rd round reversal.
So, Jay and Dan, to kind of round out weekly advice here, can you guys each just take me through your strategy last year, how it planned out, how it worked out for you? And how far you made it in the Scott Fishbowl last year. Let's all go down the line here, and then we'll jump into some Would You Rather afterwards.
Go ahead, Danny boy.
Oh, thank you. So last year, what I did was I went QB really early and often for QBs because my thinking at the time was that Superflex was going to be really important, and the other ones weren't as much. Injuries cost me a lot. And the negative points really hurt, so I didn't do as well as I wanted to. But I think that doing it that way gave me a good perspective, and because half of the mocks is just trying strategies until you're comfortable with. So while that didn't work out, it's not going to dissuade me maybe from doing it again. Mm-hmm. But I would definitely try to change it up this year personally.
Jay?
So last year I went in with the idea that I wanted to come out of the first 4 rounds with 2 quarterbacks, and it worked out pretty well. I was able to get Josh Allen and Deshaun Watson. So everybody was down on Josh Allen because of his completion percentage, and I was banking that it would increase, and I was very lucky that it increased as much as it did. So I did very well. And the way that things fell to me, I went running back in the 1st round. I went Zeke. And then I was able to get, this was before Damian Williams opted out, I was able to get CEH in the 3rd round. So I wound up first 4 rounds, I was running back, quarterback. And I got lucky with Stephon Diggs. So I was able to have that wide receiver 1 where a lot of wide receiver 2s and wide receiver 3s were going. And I also had Tyler Lockett, who got me a couple of big weeks as well. So being able to hit on those mid-round wide receivers, you have to be able to do that if you're going to go running back and quarterback early, because it is important to have a solid wide receiver core, because the waiver wire, other than the first few weeks, is non-existent. You're not going to get anything. So you need to be, if you're going to go running back, quarterback early, like I did last year, you have to be confident in your ability to identify those guys who can make the jump from that wide receiver 2 status and have a wide receiver 1 type of year.
Jay, how far did you make it out of curiosity last season with that
strategy? I made it to the conference finals, so it breaks it down. So I made it pretty far. I was close. I actually I got screwed by CEH being activated and not played.
No.
Yep, and
Wow.
I missed the cut by 1 point.
Wow.
Jesus.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Dan, why are you smiling? Are you just enjoying my misery over there?
Dan's always smiling.
I'm just a happy guy.
I
Yeah.
missed the cut by 1 point, and it was CEH not playing that cost me. I took a gamble and I lost, so it happens.
Wow, that's awful.
So I have a similar heartbreak story to you, Jay. Last season, were you at the 5 slot or the 6 slot, Jay, or what was your?
I was the 6 spot.
Okay, so I was also the 6. Zeke fell to me in the first round. I came back in the next round. I was lower on Deshaun Watson. He was there in the second, but I ended up unfortunately taking Josh Jacobs over him, which I despise at this point. But third round wasn't much better. I'm still in the mindset where if I can grab 2 of the top 6 tight ends, that's in my wheelhouse. We haven't talked too much about tight ends yet, but like right now, when you look at it, TJ Hawkinson, Logan Thomas, and Mark Andrews, they were like, if you put them with the wide receivers, they were wide receiver 16 through 18 last year. So they were like as good as like most strong and wide receiver 2s. I took Zach Ertz last year. I was another whiff right there. Luckily, I hit on some picks later on down the road. Grabbed Darren Waller, grabbed Tom Brady, Joe Burrow. Like Jay, I punted wide receiver pretty heavily. Definitely missed out on my first couple. But however, I was able to grab Justin Jefferson in about the 8th or 9th round, and he was a godsend. He definitely carried my team there. Having him and Waller definitely helped kind of even out me not having other good wide receivers. I think most weeks I was picking between guys like Cole Beasley, Nelson Aguilar, kind of just those guys off the street a little bit. Eventually down the road, like I was a guy who, and I think one thing we haven't really discussed is like you have to be really strategical with your fab. Week 1, I spent $55. I spent $25 on Myles Gaskin, which worked out. I also spent $30 on Benny Snell. So,
ouch.
Yeah, and later in the year after Chase Claypool's big game, he was still on waivers somehow, and I put everything I had on him. Like the $45 I had left, someone put like $80 on him, and it's like the wide receiver position was never really able to recover for me. Down the road, lost a couple guys to injury. David Montgomery, Nate's favorite player, he ended up kind of carrying me down the stretch as well. But at the end of the day, I made it, I think, as far as Jay to the quarterfinals there. I was 2 points away, and that was a really tough week for me. I had to pick between whether I was going to play Josh Jacobs after the whole Instagram thing, or whether I was going to ride with Zach Ertz or Cole Kmet. Eventually made the wrong decision, lost by 2 points, and it was a heartbreaker because the next week I came back and I would have made it to the finals if that was the week Darren Waller and Montgomery and JJ, they all went ham. So, I mean, it's a lot of coulda, woulda, shouldas, but like I definitely learned a lot of lessons, and being smart with my fab was a huge one because it's crazy because like I even remember spending fab on Nelson Aguilar twice, like picking him up. He was trash one week, dropped him the next, and then he ended up being good again. And be careful who you drop, because after week 1, I had T. Higgins that I had gotten in like the 17th round. He played, I think, like 10% of the snaps in week 1, ended up dropping him. And like, he would have been, just such a great wide receiver 2 to have on that team. So be careful with what you're doing, what you're dropping, what you're picking up. It definitely matters more than you think.
Yep, to elaborate on that, don't be afraid to spend the fab early. I definitely agree
Early
about being
Yes.
strategic with it, but
Yes.
especially as deep as the drafts are, the waiver wire gets so ugly so quick. Then you have those guys like the James Robinsons that can be league winners. They're not there after the first few weeks, especially in Scott Fish Bowl. So don't be afraid to spend it early and often. And I like what you said, Seth, too. Be careful who's dropped. I like to go after waivers run. I like to go right behind it and see who guys drop, because you will be surprised. People get frustrated and drop the T. Higgins and players like that. So don't, right after waivers run, go right there, because I don't think there's no waivers after that. It's a free for all. So go as soon as waivers run. Go out there and look and see who's dropped.
Oh yeah, I've been awake when waivers run for years now. Sneak in. It's so much fun.
The great thing about Scott Fish Bowl too, at least last season, it was a 1 p.m. waiver deadline.
Yep. Yeah, so, it's in the afternoon.
Oh, that's different.
That's
you know,
amazing.
yeah, and I'm that guy who honestly sets alarms. I play.
I was literally about to say the same thing. So I do the same thing.
Yep.
I wake up at like on ESPN. It used to be some god awful time, like either 3:30 or 4:30, and then later in the year they start switching the time too with like daylight saving. So like I'd be setting multiple alarms, and man, that is no fun. My girlfriend does not appreciate that. All right. Well, Dan and Jay, thank you guys for your advice so far in the show. We're going to have a little bit of fun now and get into one of our newer segments here on the podcast, Would You Rather?
Risky business or that fair state. Are you that hard on the rocks? We're chilling with a cold one, even bold one, or hold back. Would you rather? This ain't no simple matter.
All right. You guys know the game Would You Rather from our childhood. We asked two different questions. Would you rather do X or Y? Nate, why don't you start us off here with the first question, man?
So, number one, would you rather? Would you rather draft a top 3 tight end in the first 2-ish rounds or draft a top wide receiver in the first 4 rounds?
I'll go first. I would take the tight end every single time. The bonuses that you're getting from that kind of production from the top, say like 3 or 4 guys, is just worlds away from anything else you're going to get from a top receiver. So in that respect, it's an easy decision for me.
No, and even though I'm not normally a guy that goes tight end early, in that scenario, I agree. I would go with tight end pretty much for the exact same reasons that Dan said. There's so much depth at wide receiver. It's easier to hit on a mid-round wide receiver than it is a mid-round tight end. So I would definitely go with one of the tight ends.
Seth?
Yeah, I'm in agreement here, guys. I'm actually getting a little worried. Like every mock draft I'm doing, these tight ends are going higher and higher.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember doing some mock drafts earlier in the Scott Fishbowl process this year, and there were some that I was walking away with, like Darren Waller in the second, like middle second, getting TJ Hawkinson in the 4th or 5th. And now, like, I'm doing ones where those top 3 are going, within the first 12 to 15 picks. And that is scary to me. Like I thought, like, at least, okay, like, default pick at the 106 in the second round would be George Kittle. But I'm getting worried. But, yeah.
Last year in my draft, the guy who had 12 pick went George Kittle and Travis Kelce back-to-back. And he wound up in the finals. It's Ben Eby from I think he's with.
Yes, yeah.
You know who I'm talking about. I can't remember where he's from, but he made it to the finals. He almost won the whole thing. He had a really good team last year, and he was led by those tight ends. And Kittle didn't even do that much. So imagine if he'd had a full health Kittle all year.
Yeah, from what I've seen, I'm just not. I'm assuming Travis Kelce is not going to be sitting there at 107.
Jordan,
he's going to go before that.
You'd have to get lucky. You'd have to get lucky for sure. Scott, you want to introduce our next question here on Would You Rather?
Yeah. So, would you rather have to play with Scott Fishbowl scoring in every league, or never play in Scott Fishbowl again?
Without hesitation, it's played Scott Fishbowl scoring in every league.
Yeah.
Scott Fishbowl is so much fun. I mean, everything that the community does, the people that you meet. I've met so many people through Scott Fishbowl that I now consider close friends. Without a doubt. And the Scott Fishbowl, even though the scoring is different, it's pretty balanced and it's pretty fair, and it's fun to have so many different roster constructions still be successful in this league.
Well, just like every other league, it's the same scoring for everyone. So,
right, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead, Seth.
No, yeah, I'm in agreement here with Jay. I mean, definitely like Scott Fishbowl scoring took a little bit to get used to, but like I've always played in full point PPR leagues, but the half point PPR leagues with the first down, I enjoy it. And I think it's a lot of fun. And just even the networking opportunities and the fun that happens in the chats, like it can get crazy at times, a little overwhelming with everything going on. But like one thing I've been trying to do, and I'm actually releasing a column tomorrow talking about, is like just slow down and enjoy it, man. Because it comes around once a year. You never know when your last Scott Fishbowl is going to be, and man, it's just a blast.
Well, and the group that we're all in, the Thick as Thieves chat, shout out to the thieves that are watching. That started as the 106 chat last year.
Really?
And then at the end of the
Oh.
season, so at the end of the season, I said, hey, I want to make like a retweet chat group. Is anybody interested? So Shane, a couple other guys, Jordan Richards, I believe. There's some others. I don't think Jordan Richards was originally in there, but there was like Scott Simpson. There was a good probably 10 to 12 that it started, and now we have like 65 people in there, something along those lines. So that's just one example of and we're also close in there. And the beautiful thing about Scott Fishbowl is the relationships that you build out of it. So the chats are my favorite part of the entire thing.
That's been a really fun part of it that I wasn't expecting so far, like the pick chat, and it's crazy the people you get to connect with. There's the guitarist for one of my favorite like hardcore metal bands is in my group chat.
That's
and
awesome.
I've been giving him drafting advice because he's never played Superflex.
I'm a huge Duke fan, obviously. I got to play with Shane Battier last year, and who's in it again this year. He was in the group chat just talking junk to everybody. Like, he was such a cool guy, just down to earth. Like, if I told 13-year-old Jay that I got to play in a fantasy football league with Shane Battier and get to talk to him, my head would have exploded. So just that alone was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, some of the, there's some people in the Wu-Tang division, super respect, and like, on any other average day, I don't know if I would really get into an interaction with these people. But now we're in this league together because of the Scott Fishbowl, and now we can make a connection. That's been great. I really dig when people like tweet out their invitation, like a golden ticket. That's really fun. All the graphics people have been making, including Third and Short here, has been super fun to see everybody's artistic creativity making, and I mean, couldn't have picked a better year to start for my first year, at least, with it being musical bands as the divisions. It's so much fun.
I mean, I get to have Lil Sebastian as my Twitter avatar.
I know.
Like, what more could you ask for?
Dan
Nothing.
gets to be in a division with Jen.
Exactly.
He's the luckiest person on this panel.
100%.
Ever. Luckiest person ever, not even on this panel.
What's that? I think
I'm married.
There's those brownie points.
One up to you on that.
The
somehow.
history of humanity.
Dan,
Listen, being in the same Scott Fishbowl division is greater than being married. I'm sorry, it's just the rules.
Yeah,
I'll ask her what she thinks about that after the show.
You do that and let us know. No, but like everyone said, like the chats, even like the division chats and the pick chats, the division chats are awesome because obviously the division you picked, especially in music, it means you have that in common. You obviously know that band to pick them, so that's common ground right off the bat, and then you just go from there. So just the connections you make, the different strategies, how everyone has different things, and honestly, getting to learn how people think, how people play fantasy makes you a better player, honestly, and analyst, and just the friendships that are made. That's literally the best part. I mean, everyone wants to win Scotch Fishbowl. Obviously, it's a big deal to everyone, but having fun is number one.
Yeah, to go on what you said about everybody had the same interest, I'm in the Mouse Rat division. For those who don't know, it's a fictional band from Parks and Recreation. So, like, literally within an hour of our division chat being made, everybody was dropping their favorite Parks and Rec themed team names. And, like, we were just dying laughing. Like, just the little things like that. You already have that connection with most of the people that are in there. So, and, out of that 106 chat last year, I got Shane Barrett. He's somebody who I talk to almost every day. I consider a very close friend, and I probably would not be as close to him as I am right now if it wasn't for Scott Fishbowl.
Absolutely. And just to kind of build off that a little bit, I got to be in the Mac Miller division this year, and Mac, growing up a Pennsylvania kid, kind of around the same time as Mac, and obviously he unfortunately passed away a couple years. Like, definitely never had a connection to an artist like Mac Miller, and to hear other people's stories about how he got them through times in their life, like they were struggling, and just, and Nate, I'm sure you can relate being in your division as well. But I mean, I absolutely agree, guys. Like, that was one of the most awesome things was just to be in there. Everyone's naming the 101 of Mac Miller songs, and it was powerful. It was a powerful time.
Yeah, it's been really cool in the Rage Against the Machine chat because obviously we're all big fans. And Will Harris is in my division, which has been
awesome.
really awesome. like totally. Like we've all bonded on. I mean, their music is very impactful to me from like a memory standpoint. I grew up on it. I was 10 years old when their first album came out, and I had.
Yeah, you're old.
I am old, and it's fine.
Ancient.
I'm not old. I'm like a fine wine, Jay. I am aged.
There you go.
But like, there are so many other things. Like, music is such an impactful thing, and we all feel certain things when we listen to certain bands. And with Rage Against the Machine being one of my favorite bands, it made me a very like activist type youth. Like, I spoke out against things. I was vocal. And I think for all of us in that chat, it's like we have kind of a similar like belief set in those ways, having listened to and appreciated the music and understanding what it's about. And that's hard to find sometimes. And having 11 other people in this chat that all feel the same way, like that's really cool. And it's a real rare opportunity.
Yeah. I love that, Nate. And guys, to kind of round out Would You Rather today, a little bit of fun here. Would you rather be stuck on an island with Scott Fish or Gordon Ramsay? And let's keep in mind, Gordon Ramsay is a premier chef. He has a survival show now. So you'd be eating good. You'd be living good with Gordon, or you could kick it with our boy Scott Fish. Dan, or Jay, starting with you. Go ahead.
That's a tough question because I love Gordon Ramsay. But obviously, I have a podcast with Dan, so I gravitate towards people who are jerks to other people. So I guess that's kind of why I like Gordon Ramsay. But I got to say, I think I would go with Scott Fish because one, if we're stuck together, I probably have a decent chance of getting in the Scott Fish Bowl again. And two, he's such a nice guy. He's got a lot of friends. I'm sure he would have the connections to get us out of there. So I'm going to go with Scott. And if I'm stuck somewhere with somebody, I would rather be stuck with somebody who I would be able to have good conversation with. And I feel like that would be Scott.
Dan?
I've had enough about this slander of me always being mean to everyone, Jay. I'm only mean to you.
No, just to me.
I'm nice to everyone else.
That's our relationship.
Yeah.
It's out of love.
So I would go with Gordon Ramsay because I think my survival chances are exponentially higher. No offense to Scott. I would love to participate in future Scott Fish Bowls, but that's only possible.
Not anymore. And
if I live,
just got rescinded.
Well, if we're both dead, it won't matter.
There will be no Scott Fish Bowl.
There will be no Scott Fish Bowl to participate in. So
there will always be a Scott Fish Bowl.
So I would go with Gordon. I think the conversation with him wouldn't be about football, but everything, all the places he's been. I love traveling and history and stuff. So I would love to just like pick his brain about all the ways and all the places he's visited to learn how to cook. So Gordon Ramsay for me.
I got a little story about Gordon Ramsay, so I don't know.
No one cares, Jay.
It's a good story. So I don't know if he still does it or not, but he used to tweet out asking for like people's pictures of crazy food and stuff like that. And I just so happened to be on and see that while I was at the North Carolina State Fair, which if you guys don't know, they have all kinds of crazy food and concoctions and stuff like that. Most of it deep fried. So I took a picture of what I was eating at the current time. It was a deep fried Reese cup that was wrapped in bacon, covered with what's it called? Powdered sugar, and tweeted it at him, and he liked it and followed it. So I am followed by Gordon Ramsay. So
damn, son.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You still picked Scott Fish.
Yep, I did. Maybe Gordon Ramsay, if you're watching, I'm sorry.
Unfollowed.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's watching. I'm sure he's watching.
Yeah, he watches
Like,
everything
when are
I
they
do.
going to get to the
We're
Stuck Island
BFFs.
question?
Yeah.
That's dope, guys. I appreciate that. It's hot. It's been a scorcher here all around the U.S. this week. So why don't we bring a little bit of summertime back to the show? Cool off with a little bit of sure things, sleepers of the week.
It's the sure thing. Sleepers of the week.
Dope. All right. Love that intro. Definitely need to be by a beach sometime in the near future.
I just got back, and I wish I was still there, unfortunately.
All right, Jay, you were the first one. You were actually, Dan, were you at the beach this week too? Did I see that on Facebook?
I was there yesterday and today.
Okay. Well, if Dan was at the beach today, I think it's only right. Let's start with Dan. Let's go clockwise around the room. Who are your guys' sure thing sleepers of the week? Scott Fishbowl edition. We're thinking about guys somewhere in the late single-digit rounds or somewhere in the double-digit rounds that can really – and like we said earlier in the show, like these are the guys who make or break your team. Justin Jefferson last year was huge for me. Grabbed Justin Herbert late. Jay, Dan, do you guys have any favorite sleepers over the last couple years that you've grabbed in this league that have paid benefits to you?
Jay?
He said he started with you, Dan.
Oh, okay, fine. Sleepers of mine from a couple of years ago. Let me think. So probably not that he was like a huge sleeper, but Hunter Renfrow had a couple of good weeks for me a couple of years ago. So I figure for like a deeper sleeper, probably him.
Mm-hmm.
As for this year, I have two answers to this question. One is a kicker. Don't be afraid to draft a kicker before the late rounds. I don't know, everyone's inclination is to always draft the kicker at the last round or something, but Linda, our friend Linda at Linda Lyons, put out a good piece saying
it's Lindellians, sir.
Whatever. Lindellians, sorry. That's like the top kickers were outperforming some early round picks. But for position player, I'm going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown on Detroit. If you look at Detroit's depth chart, it's awful. I'd probably choose everyone in this chat over everyone that's playing wide receiver for Detroit right now. So with Hawkinson being the only guy there that's guaranteed some targets, I definitely spend like a later round pick on him. He's going to be incredibly cheap. So I would go in his direction.
Love that. G-Man J, are you going to throw out a Kadarius Toney for us? Just
No, I'd like the Kadarius Toney pick for real football, not necessarily for fantasy football. So for your first half of the question, somebody who at the time was a sleeper that worked out pretty well for me was Nick Chubb. A few years ago, I got him his rookie year really late. And although I didn't make the playoffs that year, when they finally traded Carlos Hyde and he took control and had that nice run, it gave me a last-ditch effort push to try to make the playoffs. So it was exciting. I didn't quite make it that year. I unfortunately was relying on Rashad Penny and Rojo most of the year because David Johnson got hurt. So it was not a good year. I didn't make it my first year. But my sleeper for this year is going to be Gerald Everett. I really like him. I've gotten him in a lot of formats. And like I said, I'm not the type to take a tight end early. So I'm more likely going to be looking for that late round tight end sleeper. And we all know that Russell Wilson likes to throw the tight end. He's made guys like Will Disley, Hostetler, or whatever his name is, Hollister. Guys like that, he's made them fantasy relevant. So I think Gerald Everett is probably the best tight end he's played with since Jimmy Graham. And I really like him a lot this year.
Don't forget that Everett gets his former quarterbacks coach or passing game coordinator as his offensive coordinator. Word on the street is they're going to have a lot more balanced of an offense. That's kind of his deal. So as a Seahawks fan, I agree. I didn't even really like Jimmy Graham. I'll say the best tight end since Zach Wilson. We'll go with that.
All right, Nate, what do you got for us, man?
So originally I was going to go Tyler Boyd, but I changed my mind because of the scoring in the league. I like Albert O in Denver, man. I think, he's a big, talented tight end. I think he has more skill and has a higher ceiling, in my opinion, than Noah Fant. He fits Sherber's scheme a little bit better. The only reason he didn't have a huge rookie season is because he got hurt. Once they got him on the field, he was ready to go. And if Drew Lock is the starting quarterback, which most of the chatter we're hearing around here on the local media and local sports media guys is that it's probably going to be Lock. They combined for 17 touchdowns in college together at Mizzou. They know each other. And as a late round guy, he's a sleeper. You're not spending a lot on him. You're not feeling bad about drafting and maybe reaching a little bit on this guy. But if you can get him rostered and have him with this tight end premium format, he could pay off huge. And it might only be a few weeks. It might be matchup based, but that's what we're looking for in these late round flyer guys anyway. You're not hoping for a guy you can start every week. You're hoping a guy you can stream in here and there in a flex slot. So yeah, I'm going to say Albert O.
I haven't heard that name in a long time. I know you were big on him last year. So I honestly bet you could get Albert O probably in those one of the last 2 or 3 rounds of the draft, likely.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Or waivers. Waivers. He might go undrafted. Yeah. So
great.
He's a guy to be looking out for.
Great. Love these tight end dart throws, man. Scott, what do you got for us here, man?
So I'm going to meet a little bit more in the middle. This isn't I don't have any ADPs in front of me, but I'm going to go with a guy who I've kind of just considered to be meh for a while, but I finally dug into some of his stats, and that's Mike Gesicki, the Miami Dolphins. He's not really in the same range as some of these Gerald Everett, Albert O, Adam Troutman, kind of more dart throws at the tail end. He's kind of more in that middle group. So if for him to really qualify as a sleeper, it would be more if he kind of falls in that middle group. But I like, with what he did last year, I feel like with just a few more snaps, a little bit more playing time, I think we'd be talking more about him. He had a 65% snap share, which isn't fantastic. It's not horrible. What I really like about him is I did a calculation for routes run per snap, and he led the league by far. So when he is out there, he is running routes. And he's also got the highest burst score. He's the highest burst plus speed score average. He's athletic. He runs routes. He's out there to catch passes. And I just think if his playing time increases even slightly, 7 touchdowns, 16 red zone targets, if that snap percentage goes up just slightly, I think he could be a value.
Great pick there, Scott. Obviously, my original sleeper was Gus Edwards. We named him earlier in the show, but I have one more running back to think about here in these later rounds, and it's a guy no one wants. It's not a sexy pick this year, but it's Kenyon Drake. He was actually top 6 in the league last year in first downs. Obviously, that had a lot to do with opportunity and how he was used there in Arizona. But, I think we're going to see more Kenyon Drake than we think. Like Booker got a lot of play last year. We've always seen Richard and all those guys get a decent amount of play there in Oakland. I would much rather grab Kenyon Drake, maybe the 11th, 12th round if he's still available, rather than someone like Josh Jacobs in the 4th or 5th. I just think he's going to be a value. Derek Carr, he's known to check it down. So I wouldn't mind grabbing a Derek Carr early and then having that featured wide receiver receiving back later on. So I'm in on Kenyon Drake. It might be a little bit controversial, but I think I like it for the price tag.
I can't. Did you know that Drake ran the 3rd fastest recorded run last year on that game? On that game when he touchdown run against Dallas, it was the 3rd fastest time. Raheem Mostert had the 2 first fastest times. That just, I always knew Drake was fast, but that kind of surprised me.
Also, Drake was top 3 in the NFC last year in rushing first downs. So that's the format. That's going to be huge.
Yeah, I was just actually watching NFL Network the other night before bed, and they were playing. They were featuring a game about Kenyon Drake. It was one of his big Miami games before everything went to hell there. But I was surprised with just how powerful and elusive he was in that game. So I know it's been quite a few years since then, but Kenyon Drake's still not a bad player. He was pretty good, all things considered. He's not a star, but for a guy you can grab and just give yourself maybe a decent 3rd or 4th RB that you can throw in on some bye weeks. You only have to start 2 RBs. That's the thing you have to remember too. So I'm okay with fading my 3rd or 4th RB in Scott Fishbowl a little more than normal. But Jay, Dan, Scott, Nate, any final thoughts here? Any words of encouragement? Any final advice for everyone as we kind of go into this just wild weekend, and it's going to end with the draft on Monday?
I think, to echo what's been said a little bit, Scott Fishbowl, first and foremost, it's for a great charity, a great cause, but it's to have fun. Have fun with this, And, I've heard it's like the official start of the fantasy season. I've heard that uttered before. Because, keep in mind, tomorrow, what do we got? Tomorrow's July 1st. The offseason can seem really slow. And then all of a sudden it's training camp's in a month. So have fun with it. Just get prepared. The season's coming. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, I agree with Scott. It's right there. We're so close, and have fun with it. And remember also, this is for charity. I've seen some people dumping on Scott Fish and Scott Fishbowl lately for not getting in. Calm down. This is for charity. Not everyone can get in. It wouldn't be as fun. And remember that this is for charity, and we're supposed to have fun. have fun.
And he tries so hard to get as many people as he
Yeah.
can.
Well, and
Like,
the work that he and Ryan McDowell do, like, can you imagine doing all of that? It's insane.
Yep.
It's insane. The amount of work that they put into Scott Fishbowl every year is absolutely crazy.
And to anybody to poo-poo them for not getting an invite is just nothing but selfish. So I'm sure we all feel the same way. We're all so grateful for all the work that he does. Everybody is. Don't let a few the bad apples sour the bunch, because
Right.
100%. He created the satellite leagues for that reason. They have satellite leagues
Exactly.
now where if you win the satellite league, you get a spot next year. So just join one of those. Same scoring and everything. You can still participate if it means that much to you that you didn't get in.
Right.
That's not the point, but still. Just calm down, people.
Yeah.
Well, and to echo what everybody's been saying, have fun with it. If you are in, make sure you get into the draft chats. Make sure you get into, start a division chat. Like the relationships you build through Scott Fishbowl mean more than any finish. Obviously, winning would be pretty nice, but still, the relationships, at least to me, have meant a lot more than doing good, doing bad, anything like that. Even if you're not in it, buy a shirt. There's so many different things that you can do. They've got the podathon coming up. Donate during the podathon. That is, Sal and the guys are going to go for 24 hours straight. Just like you said, don't lose sight of what the true meaning of it is. Build the relationships, have fun, and if you think about it, shoot a tweet out there saying thank you to Scott and Ryan for all they do, because they bring so much joy to so many people with all their hard work, and they do a lot of good as well. So again, how I don't understand how anybody could be mad at them.
Yep.
Yeah, basically, it's echoing what all these guys said. Just have a good time. But a quick piece of advice: just double check. Take a second or two in your day. Double check the coaching staffs for the new coaches. See what the new teams have. Maybe there's a certain player scheme that's coming up that you could benefit a player that you're not looking at. So that just any kind of information that you can get, it could be an advantage, because it is fun, but we all like to win too. Let's be honest. So
100%.
Well, yeah, I'm not here to lose.
And go through the scoring.
Well, that's what Jay's here. Jay's here to lose. So I thought
We pointed the right way.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I was guessing too. It's complete guess.
I'm so bad about that. But
but no, Jay. But yeah, everyone have a great time. Thanks, Scott. Enjoy your chats and have fun drafting. Don't panic.
And if you can't keep up with your chats, don't be discouraged. The sevens, I can't keep up with them, man.
It happens. The
Sevens are so active. It's so fun. I just can't keep up. It's
impossible. I've tried. I tried for the first 2 days. It's like, you know what? I can't.
Yeah.
Can't.
I love it though.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, Nate, Jay, Dan, I appreciate all the insight tonight. For more of Dan and Jay, you can find them at their Twitter handles. You can find them at A Podcast with Upside. Do you two fellas have anything else you'd like to plug before we sign off here?
Dan?
Just one more time, my Roto Underworld article that came out 2 days ago, just explain why David Montgomery won't have as much success this season as people are expecting of him. Sorry, Nate.
Yeah, and I do write for Roto Underworld, although it's been a few months since I've been able to. Life has been a little bit crazy. I've got a full-time job and kids, and life's been taken over lately, but I will have some articles coming out here soon. I got a couple ideas up here, just got to put pen on paper. And Dan and I are both part of the team at Front Yard Fantasy. We'll have some announcement of what we're going to be doing over there soon, so keep an eye out for that as well.
Also, we have our podcast with Upside tomorrow with Victoria. So check that out, please.
Great.
Nice.
Great. Absolutely. Yeah, we will definitely be tuning in, following everything you gentlemen are doing, your class acts in this industry. We appreciate it. Last piece of advice I want to give out is just enjoy this. Live in the moment. It only comes around so often. I'm going to touch more on that, and definitely got some great advice from different people in the industry, all coming out in a Start Seth column tomorrow. So be sure to check that out. Check everything else we have going on here at In Between Media. If you can hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube, we really appreciate it. Follow my guys on Twitter. They're excellent at everything they do. We're going to
love everything you guys do at IBT.
You guys are awesome.
Thank you, Jay.
All of you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate everything. Appreciate all our listeners and audience out there. So far this offseason, it's been a hell of a ride, and I'm excited to see where it goes the rest of the way. For Nate, for Scott, Dan, and Jay, I'm Seth, and keep it in between till next time, folks.